I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board on Friday, March 3rd, 2023 at 1 o'clock. The reason this is a special meeting today is our regular scheduled meeting, due to a technical issue, we weren't able to hold. So this is being held in lieu of our regular meeting. And the only difference on a special meeting is we're limited to only the items that are on the agenda. No new items can be brought up that aren't on the agenda. So with that, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Member DeLong.
Here.
Member Keevan.
Here.
Member Mason.
Here.
Member Snyder. Member Dutton Mitchell.
Here.
And for the record, Mr. Snyder's called in. He's tied up right now with the General Assembly, and he'll be here as soon as he can. So with that, the first item we'd like to do today is move to item 3.1, and I'll turn it over to Steve Mason.
Okay. The hearing will come to order. My name is Stephen Mason. I have been requested by the board to conduct this hearing. With me today are board members and staff of the Frankfurt Electric and Water Plant Board. We are here to receive comments regarding 1, increasing rate for cable network work pass-through fee, 2, increasing rate for bulk cable 1 and bulk cable 2, 3, reducing digital gateway fee, 4, reducing star/encore rate, and 5, update FPB local weather advising rates. This public hearing was advertised in accordance with the regulations for public notifications and appeared in the weekend February 25th, 26th, 2023 edition of the State Journal newspaper. To conduct this hearing in an organized fashion, we have asked that anyone wishing to comment register via email with Kathy Jennings or Kathy Lindsay. This hearing will be conducted informally and voluntarily by the Frankfurt Electric Water Plant Board in order to accept comments on the above items. Both oral and written comments will be accepted. Any and all persons present who wish to make a statement will be afforded an opportunity to do so. If you have a written statement to accompany your oral presentation, a copy of the written statement should be provided to the board prior to your presentation. Oral presentation should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. If necessary, I will interrupt and request the presentation to be completed due to this time limit. I may ask questions of any person presenting oral comments where it is necessary to clarify the nature or substance of the comments. The board reserves the right to answer questions at a later date. It is the job of the board to fairly consider various points of view and information. We want public input and involvement, and I hope you do not find our standard procedures restrictive. Additional comments and written comments will be accepted and considered if they are submitted no later than the end of normal business hours on Monday, March the 20th, 2023. To submit a comment, please contact FPB at 502-352-4372 or on our website, www.fpb.cc. Before we open the floor for comments, Mr. David Denton will provide a summary of the details.
Good afternoon. The proposed rate increases Mr. Mason just went through are a direct pass-through of increased programming cost of the networks on classic cable. These increases are not a result of a single agreement, but each of the 8 major media companies own a piece of this increase. The first one, increasing cable network pass-through fee, is to propose it moving from $60.19 per month to $63.81 per month, effective May 1st, 2023. This fee is a direct pass-through of the monthly fees paid by FPB to network cables for the right to distribute their programming. This is a 6% increase, and the customer charge will remain unchanged at $12.79. On the Bulk 1 and Bulk 2 cable rate increases, on Bulk 1, proposal is to move from $15.25 per outlet per month to $16.20 per outlet per month, effective May 1st, 2023. Bulk 1 cable, defined in FPB's tariff, is primarily hotels and dormitories. On the cable bulk rate 2, proposal is to increase the rate from $26.60 per outlet per month to $28.14 per outlet per month, effective May 1st, 2023. Bulk cable 2, as defined in our tariff, is typically office complexes with more than 8 outlets. These increases are the same percentages that we just discussed in the classic cable increases and are needed to keep pace with the increases in wholesale license fees that FPB must pay to our programmers. The next one is to reduce the digital gateway fee. So our proposal is to decrease the digital gateway fee from $2.50 per household per month to $2.40 per household per month, effective May 1st, 2023. This digital gateway fee applies to FPB cable households who have one or more advanced set-top boxes. A small part of this digital gateway fee is for video on-demand content, and with the discontinuation of our VOD, we think it's appropriate to lower this rate commensurate to the amount of the decrease that's associated with VOD. The next is to reduce the Stars Encore rate, looking to decrease the Stars Encore rate from $15 per month to $9 per month, effective May 1st, 2023. The board recently approved a new agreement with Stars Encore for the distribution of these channels to cable subscribers who subscribe to the package. The new agreement allows for lower license fees when sold at a lower retail rate, and staff would recommend reducing the rate charged to customers and allow it to compete with Stars' direct-to-consumer offering. And then the last is FPB's local weather advertising rates. As the board is aware, and I know our community is aware, the weather channel on Channel 19, we had to change that. The weather channel decided to stop distribution of that channel, so we do have a new setup there that allows for a new layout for advertising opportunities that is different from the old channel. We'd like to establish pricing for the products that we might be able to offer relating to the crawl. The first one would be advertising products on the sidebar and text scroll. A maximum price for both products combined would be $150, and then the maximum price for a single product would be $100. As I stated before, all of these would be effective May 1st. What we have presented on the screen, and if David, if you want to show that, feel free on to the to those watching on our Facebook page. You can see the summary of the different changes that we just outlined verbally. I'd like to move for a moment and look just a little bit at some of the a little chart that we show every year. The chart that we show here is a classic cable programming and operating expense. This is looking at our total bill and breaking our total bill, which would be 100%, and breaking that out between what is the actual programming fees that go to these network providers and what is the portion that actually stays with Frankfurt to actually deliver the service and continue to operate FPB's operating expenses. You can see the blue line there representing the programming cost. It shows that 88% of Classic Cable's customers' total bill, it goes to programming fees that leaves Frankfurt, Kentucky. And then the 12% on the green line there is what actually stays to actually operate the system and keep things up and running. And you can see how that blue programming cost has increased over time, and a significantly reduction in the amount that helps us to operate the system. We have another chart here for you that shows our classic cable programming operating expense in a different way. The blue line represents the total amount of the classic cable bill, and then we show the breakout in dollars between what actually is programming expense and what it is in the green line, operational expense. So the very far right, the proposed 2023 rates for the package would be $103.85. $91.06 would go to the programming, to programmers, and then the remaining $12.79 would stay with here in Frankfurt to actually run the system. One of the charts shown before you is looking at what a package that AT&T offers, and then FPB, a package with similar programming offerings. You can see, looking at a price comparison, that after this proposed rate change, AT&T's would be close to $159 with Frankfurt plant boards at $103.85. We still a significant value for those that would like to subscribe to cable television. I'd be glad to answer any additional questions, but that's the general summary of what we're asking for to be approved at the next regular meeting in March.
So I guess, do we have any comments, public?
Could I ask,
Sure.
now tell me again, who's in bulk 1 and bulk 2?
So bulk 1 is primarily KSU dormitories and hotels. And then bulk 2 is office complexes with more than 8 outlets.
So is bulk 2 like state government?
That and commercial buildings, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So state governments, city government, schools, and that all is in bulk 2?
Correct.
Okay.
So, do we have any public comments, provided?
I have not seen.
So I guess we are at the end of this hearing. So do we have to have a motion to close the hearing?
Okay, so I move that we close this hearing.
I'll second it.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're back. So at this point, based on the way we're noticed, Hans, what's our next?
Have a motion to recess.
Okay, until 3 or 2:30?
I would say 3.
Okay,
And then if you shift the time, that one case shifted the time, time back.
mm-hmm,
So somebody wouldn't have missed any business if they were there.
right,
If we moved the time up, then the idea would be well, people would.
Right.
We've already conducted business that people haven't been able to see.
okay.
So, no, no, sir.
So,
Okay, so I need a motion to recess until the hour of 3.
Yes, sir.
All those, do I have a motion?
so I'll move that we recess till 3 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. We're recessed until 3 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sound like you choked on.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We're back in session. First item is item 1.1. Consider approval of minutes of January 17, 2023 board meeting. Does anyone have any changes or corrections? Changes or corrections? None? Seeing none? Do I have a motion to adopt?
A motion to adopt.
Approved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes adopted. Consider approval of minutes for the January 31st, 2023 special board meeting. Does anybody have any changes or corrections? Seeing none, do you have a motion to adopt? Approve?
So moved.
Approved. We have a motion, second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Action items, Mr. Denton, financials.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
So Frankfurt Plant Board has a fiscal year that ends June 30th of each year. So what we have presenting to you tonight is the first 7 months of the fiscal year ending on and ending through January 31st, 2023. In your board packet, pages 27 through 102 are 76 pages of glorious financial information for anybody that would like to have time to check it out. So when you look at starting at 27 and starting there, there's really nothing month over month from December to January on the balance sheet or what we call statement of net position that I would point out. When you look at the statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position, we are doing better. We're better than expected budget to actual on our revenue. That's kind of led by increased customer usage on electric and water. And then in telecom, we're hanging pretty steady with where we were a year ago. Looking at expenses, we're actually about 2% below our budgeted amounts through the first 7 months. One of the things I don't talk about a whole lot is actual to actual, where we were last year through where we are now. And we are about 6% increase in expenses year over year through the first 7 months, which we knew inflation was here and coming, and it's baked into the budget, but 6% increase year over year, which is in line with a lot of the different inflation estimates you see out there through the first 12 months through January also. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have, but we're getting set up here to start talking about the next budget year in the coming months.
Well, we suspended the department reports today because of the weather, but in terms of past due accounts and so forth, how are we doing on that coming out of January?
We're talking about pass-through accounts.
Like people not being able to pay their bills and delinquencies.
Yes. We've worked through all of the payment arrangements that we had through the COVID procedures. We have had much better weather than we're used to. So I would say that we've kind of normalized when it comes to cutoffs.
Okay.
Prior to where we were with COVID. So it's back to, I feel like, business as usual. We still have individuals it's a hard time covering costs, but we're very fortunate here in Frankfort. Some utilities have really increased rates more significantly than we have. So I felt like we've kept costs contained and rates very stable compared to a lot of people.
Does anybody have any questions, David?
Nope.
Do you have a motion to accept the financials?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials are adopted. Thank you, sir. Informational public comment. Anybody signed up, Kathy? Department reports. Anything, Vint, that we don't have them regular, but anything you need to highlight or bring up, or any problem areas?
No, sir. We're just prepared for if we have bad storms here in the next little bit.
Yep.
But all of our stuff in the previous month has been basically business as usual. You know, we had a few storms come through, but they were handled pretty quickly. So
And we had a squirrel incident not too long ago, right?
we did have a squirrel commit suicide. Yes, sir. So that was which one was that?
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It happens
For the
from time to
squirrel,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. But, anyway.
Next one is item 6.1, action item. Consider approving A&E Television Networks license agreement. David?
So I believe we were originally scheduled to have our regular meeting back last Tuesday.
Right.
Between then and rescheduling, this A&E agreement, which is running for another 5-year renewal, we needed to provide them information by the 28th. I think staff reached out to Gary and
We need to
board.
check, as I understand, we need to check a box and then discuss it today and take formal action.
Yes, sir. The A&E agreement has been officially, we did go ahead, the Cable Advisory Committee recommended approval of the A&E Networks agreement. The current NCTC agreement expired back in December 31st of 22. Under this agreement, carriage, packaging, and other items other than the rate remain the same as the existing agreement. Rate increases are between 2% and 3%, which is a little less than what we had budgeted. So we just would like to ask the board to kind of ratify our actions on approving the A&E agreement.
Right, and as I understand, we followed the same procedure on this that we follow like on purchases sometimes, that we adopted the procedure earlier that we have to act in order to lock in a price and then with notice to the board and then subsequent approval.
Yes, sir. And we felt comfortable, and we were kind of giving the go-ahead with the Cable Advisory's approval.
Right.
If we had not have done that by the 28th of February, that channels would have gone dark.
Yeah. As I remember what Harvey said, we didn't need to sign anything but check a box.
Absolutely.
That's right. So at that point, we have this in front of us then for formal action. Does anybody have any questions of David? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Thank you, sir. Action item, accept minutes of December 13th Cable Advisory Committee meeting.
Yes, those are available in your board packet on pages 149 and 150, and we're just asking the board to approve those.
Any
moved.
questions? Or we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are adopted. Next is action item, award of bid number 1778 to HDPE Conduit. How you doing?
Hello. This was kind of added, not at the last minute, it was added at the last minute for the original
Right.
meeting. So it's actually to award to Galloway Group for HDPE conduit. The tab sheet is included in the board packet. We sent out the bid. Currently, the fiber to the home contractors are placing about 5,000 feet of conduit a week. So we thought it was best to, instead of getting in 20,000 feet orders every month, to do one big order because the lead times were extending. So the bid, we recommended awarding to Galloway Group based on the lead time. And they had a 3 to 4 week lead time, and everyone else was significantly longer. And the amount of $93,750.
And this item's budgeted, David?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. This is essential
Mhm.
for moving forward with Next Band and all the other
Right.
underground projects.
Does anyone have any questions of, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Thank you. Action item, consider award of bid invitation number 1776 for 2 pickup trucks to O'Brien Ford in the amount of $78,241.92. And I want to commend you, Ms. Phelps. As I understand it, because I asked you the question earlier, because basically state price contract non-existent anymore, and that you beat MSRP on these, is that correct?
And they're $1,625 below the MSRP.
Good work.
Staff obtained sealed bids for 2 half-ton pickup trucks to be used in the electric department. These trucks are considered additional trucks as they are for the 2 new AMI technician positions. Staff recommends awarding to O'Brien Ford an amount of $78,241.92. Although Dane Cummins Dodge is $49 cheaper per truck, the plant board's heavy truck and equipment technicians are Ford certified. And we also have Ford diagnostics programs to diagnose any issues the trucks may later have. $84,000 is included in the current budget for the purchase of these trucks. And also I wanted to note that these 2 trucks were evaluated using the criteria listed on the fleet replacement policy that was board approved in August of '22. Internal combustion engine was determined to be the best fit due to the trucks being needed in service restoration efforts. Their primary function in these events is to pinpoint damage, report back to operations, and have material ready in order to speed up restoration.
Could I ask you just one question? State price contract, is it just now because of the supply shortages and that? Well, you think those will ever come back anymore, or is it?
Yeah, we were told to check back early spring.
Okay. Any questions for Leanne?
I don't know, the Dodge is $100 cheaper.
Yeah, that's,
No, thank you.
because I understand the advantage, just make sure I understand. I think by being Ford certified, we can do a lot of warranty work ourselves.
We actually get paid from.
Right, and we don't have to take the trucks out of service. We can do it ourselves. We don't have to take it to a dealer. We can do it, and then Ford reimburses us.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry for the snarkiness.
Well, that's-
No, I totally understood that.
Yeah.
It's funny they came in so close.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would think $1,000 difference, but 100's interesting.
Mr. Chairman, actually, staff also looking for the Ford 150 electrical.
how's that
I
going?
think the costs are high.
I've gotten an update last week that I can place a bid now for the EV truck. So we had talked about purchasing an EV for the security supervisor position.
Okay.
So I'll be putting a bid out for that soon.
So they've actually, I mean, I know they got them in. They were selling them for what, $75,000 to $90,000?
The estimate I got was $64,000.
Because that's about sticker on them, but they're actually, the dealers were adding on but they're actually taking bids on them?
Yes.
Do we have a motion on item number 1776?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts, trucks, I guess we bought trucks. Next one, 6.5, consider renewal of groundskeeping services contract to McDonald's Lawn and Landscaping. Leanne?
The current contract for groundskeeping services with McDonald's Lawn and Landscaping ended on February 28th. Staff recommends renewing the contract for an additional year at the same cost. Rebidding would likely result in a price increase. McDonald's was the low bidder when the contract was put out to bid, and they've done an exceptional job in keeping the plant board's grounds maintained. And so far, we've spent $76,550 on the current contract.
And this was cheaper than staying with in-house, right? Any questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts for Steve.
Had a question on the certification. Do we have to pay to get Ford certified, or do they pay? Will they pay us?
So I will check and get you a definite answer.
I mean, it's a good feature. I'm just wondering how we came about that. So
I'll get back.
I know a lot of governments that have big fleets do that same program where they can do the service. When Lexington Police bought Chevy Yukons from Louisville, they got Chevy certified, so they could do their own work in-house. So
And, you know, I think it looks like it'd be a good feature for the company, because if they can certify mechanics at, you know, at the place, they'll probably insure the scenarios like this one where, you know, they don't have to really be the lowest bidder, but they can just kind of count that into the cost. So.
Thank you. Are you got to know, it's David Billings. Item 6.6, consider award of bid invitation number 1777, Taylor Todd Elevated Tank Painting Project to Kearns Construction Services for $529,820. $800.
Last year, before we painted the tank on the other side of town, on the west side of town. This is the 1 million gallon tank on the east side of town. It's about 20 years since it's been touched up. We took bids in the latter part of January. Those bids ranged from $530,000 to $650,000. The water department budgeted $500,000 in this year's budget. Kearns Construction has successfully done work in the past for other utilities. He's being recommended by our tank consultant. So staff recommends that we award the bid to Kearns Construction Services for $529,800 and amend the project budget to $667,000.
Who painted the one on this side of town, David? The one by Dairy Queen. It wasn't Kearns.
It was not Kearns. It was, he wouldn't have asked me.
Has the price gone up substantially since we did this one over here on by Dairy
Sam
Queen?
Estes, thank you. Sam Estes painted.
Okay.
Well,
Is the price gone up a lot since we did the one by Dairy Queen?
a little bit. The one that the $500,000 that we painted last year was $256,000. This is 1 million gallon.
Okay.
So it's double that,
Double.
basically.
Here's a question. So without the paint, I assume it rusts over time, like it'll
Yes.
start to do integral damage. Okay.
And your painting systems typically last 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
The tank itself can last 100 years.
And then they put on 2 or 3 coats kind of thing, or is it one?
It's a
thick coat?
millage. Like a thick, they're required to put on a certain thickness of undercoat, then overcoat.
Okay, cool.
Do we, when we got into this one over here, we have not budgeted anything in this one yet. If we get into anything like, we had some problems over here, didn't we, like rusty ladders and other problems? You think we'll get into that here?
When you sandblast a steel structure, you never know exactly what you're going to get into.
Right.
What we do is when we take bids, there's certain allowance items for things that can go over.
Uh-huh.
So we ask the contractor to go ahead and lock his pricing in then. It's not included in this price, but the unit price is for those repairs.
Okay, if we get,
If we use them. I don't anticipate it going over this, but it may 5 or 10%. That's usually what we see.
and this was about $167,000 more than we had budgeted, David?
Yes.
Correct, yes. We're running below our projected capital spending for the year. It's a necessary item, and we can reallocate, so I don't anticipate being an issue.
Okay.
In the agenda item, we stated that the additional funds will come from other capital additions projects that this year that are not going to meet their budget
Right.
for.
Yeah. And then roughly what percentage of the water we store is in this tank for the whole community?
This is 1 million out of about 15 million.
Any other questions for
Those are
David?
rough figures.
Any other questions for David? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're going to paint a tank, I guess. Thank you, sir. Item 6.7, consider retaining Blue and Company LLC to conduct the fiscal year 22-23 financial statement audit for a fee of $38,700. Mr. Dent.
Yes, we had issued an RFP for service, external audit services. External audit services are required, part of the Kentucky Revised Statutes that form the plant board, so every year we're required to have an audit. We typically put these RFPs out and request an estimated service period of 5 years and give us an idea of how much rates are going to be over that 5-year period. So about this time, between the finishing of the audit for the prior year and now ask for a new engagement letter. This audit from the original RFP was kind of, the quote came in, let's see here, looking at the pages. If you look at page 169 of your board packet, 169, last year the audit fee was $33,650. The original RFP proposal was up 2% from that, from $34,300. Blue and Company is requesting that they would increase the audit fee from what they originally quoted. As they talk about, since COVID hit, there's been a lot of changes. With all of the federal funds, there are a lot of requirements on auditors to produce audits to comply with those funding. And also, you have a significant change in the labor force around accounting services. So they're asking for a 15% increase in the year-over-year increase in the audit fee. And so I just want to put it towards the board if you all would like to move forward with Blue in that amount, or if just what discussion you'd like to have around that.
As I understand it, under the contract, and from what I understand, what I know about the company, they've done a good job, right?
They have. They've done well.
But they've asked for an increase, but we don't have to grant it.
They said that they would honor their
the
original
price that they bid.
2020 price, but they're asking all.
Sure.
It's like we've done with a lot of other things. We've had to renegotiate because you can't stay in business if you're paying more than you're getting in retail fees. So they will continue at the price they said they would, but they were asking.
And as I understand, I don't think there's any doubt. Audit salaries, everything else have gone up like everything else. Inflation. This is just me. I'm 15% strong. Our staff got what in this fiscal year? We got 8 last year, 8%.
Yes.
And I think they have done a good job. And when they bid it, nobody was looking at this kind of inflation. 15% of, like I said, gives me some heartburn.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognize that it's hard holding them to a figure that nobody could have realized 2 years ago, and open it up for the board. What you all think?
I think we should counter,
Counter.
Well,
we give them a Ford
10,
truck.
Maybe 10.
Yeah.
10, I think it would be a fair count
Mhm.
to them.
Yeah, I was thinking just sort of meeting in the middle,
Yeah.
7.5, but I'm willing to go to 10. But we didn't count on this, they didn't count on this.
Right.
Just kind of meet them halfway,
They are willing to honor and say they'll do it even without, which I think is good on theirs.
It's really good.
Catherine, what do you think?
I was thinking more of 8, but I want to know what it will do to the remaining 2 years
Yeah.
on our scheduled contract. If we go up 15, how does that affect the next years? If we go up 8, is it 2% next year?
Sure. Yeah, you're often running on a new fee ladder if you were to increase it to the requested amount. So going forward, I think we're on a year-by-year discussion with them on the actual audit fee. So 8%, it's $337 per percentage change. So you're at around $2,700 increase, which is putting you around $36,400 is where you would be at 8% increase.
Well, and as a consultant myself, I like it. I don't like to be negotiated with too hard when I put out a fair number, but at the same time, they are trying to renegotiate a contract, so I think meeting them halfway, or 8%, or even 10%.
Steve was at 10. Jason was at 7.5. Catherine was 8. The blended rate would be 8.5%. What's 8.5% cost us?
You're looking around $2,900.
So once again, this is one more year, and then we're into just a new contract with them, right? So this is just a one-time thing, right?
The idea is that we wouldn't commit to
this.
5 years. It was just give us a little price to see what we're looking at over a 5-year term, and it would be a year-to-year agreement with them. So 2% is, we were running at 2% inflation for a very long time, and things have changed. So.
Another point is that all these other bids that we've taken on the other things have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
So we also are experiencing the same thing they are. So,
Right.
Do we have a motion? Pick a number.
I like the round 10%. I think it shows that we understand what's going on. I don't mind meeting them halfway at 7.5, 8% sounds good.
Whatever you all put on the floor, I will.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion for an 8%
Okay.
increase.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Do we have a second going at 8?
Yeah, and I third that one, so.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of 8%?
Before-
Oh, hold it.
So you're gonna go back and propose 8%, or this is pretty much? you think
They were
that
they wanted to tell us their situation, ask for the board to consider it, that they would go with the other original fee.
Okay.
But I would go back to them and say, our board understands your situation, would like to offer an 8% increase. Can you send us a new engagement letter with that revised price? And since if the board does approve that, I would just ask Mr. Cubine to sign it when we get that revised letter.
Because my understanding is they were willing to honor the current price
Yes.
without any raise. If we, in good faith, they were willing to keep to that.
They were.
So by giving them 8%, I kind of get the impression they would appreciate consideration at 8.
Correct. The cost of doing this audit is much higher than it was in 2020. And
Yeah.
I think they will move forward and accept the board's decision.
Well, and I guess I'd propose that little comment to them, just to say we appreciate that willingness, but also we understand when they come back to negotiate next year, they'll probably be at the new, whatever market rate is, so we'll just sort of.
And we'll come back again next year and propose a new, see what they come back on another rate.
But I think you made a good point. They come around next year, the new number they're going to bring back next year is this new number this year.
Correct.
That'd be the starting
Or
point.
higher.
Yeah.
They were moving at a 2% increase year over year, and I would think it's going to be more than that going forward.
Yeah. And then we always have the option, if we think we can do better on the market, we can rebid, right?
You, at any time
At
you
any
want
time.
to. Mhm.
But right now, we're not thinking that's
No.
the case. So that's why we are willing to.
Yeah.
meet
Yeah, because
them.
going out in this market and rebidding, and the first year, from my experience, in the auditor's office, the first year of an audit's the most expensive because they're getting to know. So we'd be looking at a pretty, I hate to say this on camera, if Blue's watching, but we'd be looking at probably a pretty decent high price for someone brand new to come in and get started again.
You would, and the timing of the year, we're a little less than 3 months out from the end of the fiscal year. Everyone's pretty covered up, and you might have people say, well, we can, it's just going to take a lot longer, and you're going to pay for it.
Because a lot of the federal COVID fund, there's a lot of new audits out there to be done.
Yes, required, yeah.
But I also think we owe it to our customers. If someone's saying, of course, we'll honor the contract price, that we just don't carte blanche.
Yeah.
Say, well, what did you want more?
Yeah,
know?
you want more? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
So
fair.
we had a motion and second, and we were about ready to vote, right? I think that's where
Yeah.
so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, sir. Item 6.8, consider approval of agreement with Groves Construction and Boland Companies for storm responses. As I understand, it's Scott Hudson. As I understand, this one, this is our backup. This doesn't cost us any money. It's basically have them if we need them. Is that correct, Scott?
That's correct. All this is just a letter that we put in file that shows their rates, so to meet the FEMA requirements. So if we did have a disaster or an emergency situation, we had to bring contractors in for such as, in that way we could meet the FEMA requirement to get reimbursements, so.
Which also
Doesn't cost
protects
us
us
any
in
money.
case of emergency. We're getting price gouge too,
That's all
right?
this is
Yeah.
just in case of emergency, that's correct.
Mhm.
I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, though.
And we've used Groves and Boland for some time.
We've actually we've used Groves one time before, a long time ago. Groves is in Western Kentucky and Bowling is out of Owen County, so they're kind of right next door to us. So we're trying to find somebody, give us two options. Depends on how things go through the state.
And what area got hit in the state, yeah.
Right, so you'd at least have your bases covered.
Right. Any questions, Scott? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Thanks, Scott. Action item, approved census project management change order. Travis?
Good evening, everyone. As we've had several discussions on, obviously, we've gotten, fairly well behind on the AMI project. So we had discussions with Census regarding the project management invoices. essentially the change order that's before you this evening is a $0 change order. There was an amount of $612,000 in the original contract for project management services. We agreed that they're still entitled to that, but we wanted to change the mechanism and how they billed us. So they had been billing us based on a 33-month deployment period. That's obviously not going to happen. We're gonna slip on that deadline. So we've asked them to reduce the monthly invoices to match the longer project duration. So that's a change order that's before you this evening. Again, it amounts to a $0 change order. This contract amount is not changing. It's just the mechanism in which they bill us. There is one typo in the board package I wanted to call out. The actual monthly invoice amount is going to be $44.50. The change order that goes to you, Mr. Cubine, it'll be correct. I printed out a good one for you, but
Right.
happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Travis?
Seems pretty straightforward that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, essentially it's a $0. It's just paying a little less month to month since it's lasting longer.
Any other discussion, questions? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. While you're up there, Travis, you want to go on and do 6.11?
We can be happy to.
That's approval of EV lease agreement with West Banco.
Yes, sir, and this is for the fast charging station we've talked about for some time now. This will be the downtown charging station. It's next to what I call the old depot, right downtown. It's I don't know, it's at Old Depot. I think most people know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's the downtown lot we've talked about for some time. West Banco owns that lot. They've agreed to let us install the charging station there. The terms of the lease agreement, Hans did most of the legwork on that, but I think it's pretty standard for most of these charging station leases. It's a 3-year term. After that, they can give us a 30 days notice. The equipment can be moved if it were to come to that. I don't foresee that, but if that happened to be the case, we would have some conduit in the ground that would maybe be stranded, but it's not ideal, but not the end of the world if that were to ever come to be. But anyway, they've been very agreeable. They worked with us quite a bit on that. I think we've got a good location, so if everything goes smoothly with the lease, hopefully in the next few weeks we can kind of really get started getting that station set.
Is this the rapid charge?
It is, yes. This is a DC fast charging. The ones that we deployed before are like an 8 to 12 hour-ish full charge. This one is 45 minutes to an hour for full charge. Yeah.
So
I was just going to add that the location is where the city wanted it as well.
Okay.
So that is the same location we had agreed to.
And this is the one that we had budgeted, right?
Yes.
I'm glancing over the lease, so we're just doing a lease agreement, but I don't see a payment. We're not
They have not asked for any payment, no. They did ask to put a logo on the sign. I think we were going to do a custom sign anyway, so I think that was no problem. Just put their name out there, but they have not asked for any payment. Okay.
Do we have any questions on it? Yeah, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do you have a second? We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
Michelle? You got 2 items. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
First item is 6.10, approve resolution to adopt joinder agreement with Kentucky Deferred Compensation Authority.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Frankfurt Plant Board participates in deferred compensation programs administered by Kentucky Deferred Comp. In order to continue participation in the 401 and 457 plans, which are administered by Kentucky Deferred Comp and nationwide, FPB must execute the new joiner agreement and resolution received on or around February 2nd, 2023. In short, the joiner agreement authorizes Kentucky Deferred Comp to perform any and all acts incidental to administration of the plans. Staff recommends the board move to approve the joiner agreement and resolution adopting the same. The contract is located on page 189 of your detail pages.
Deferred comp is attached to the state personnel, it's a state agency. So is this a standard agreement that all state agencies and everybody in deferred comp, county government, cities would all be signing?
I'm not sure what variance they would send out. Yeah, I'm not sure what they would send to the state and so forth, but when I read through it, just the sense I got was it was the tax exempt status of these plans. I think they, from the nationwide and the deferred comp, the sense I get is they look at it each year or whenever it's needed to make whatever changes. And then there's some provisions in the contract about the timing of payments when the plant board sends the money to the comp. So it didn't seem like it was anything that was would be burdensome to the board.
Well, I mean, I know deferred comp not only offers the state government, but the city, county government, school districts. Like you said, they're created by the General Assembly. I mean,
Yeah, that I wouldn't be sure. I'd have to look and see. I don't know if they would send a different agreement to us as a city agency or municipal agency versus a county. I don't know if there's some, like you just touched on, I don't know if there's some difference between the state versus a county versus a city or a municipality. I don't know if there are any distinctions they make for.
I think 2 years ago, the General Assembly passed a law that it doesn't apply to us, but for all state employees, they're mandatorily enrolled in deferred comp from day one. And they can get out, but they're automatically enrolled and have to put in, a minimum of $5 or $10 a month or per pay, and I don't think they have any choice. They can get out if they want, but if they don't get out, they automatically start from the first paycheck. Because he wanted to encourage everybody to start saving for.
Yeah, we don't have.
We don't have that. I think it's just state employees.
No. Right.
Do we have any questions for Nichelle? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts approved. Item 6.12, consider amendments to the job classification and compensation plan, reclassified network operations center director position, and job title change.
Staff asked the board to consider approving the reclassification of the Network Operations Center Director due to assignments of additional job duties related to Frankfurt Plant Board's physical security. These new job duties include, but are not limited to, implementing overall security strategies, policies, and standards to ensure the physical safety of all visitors, employees, and customers to FPB facilities, and security of all property and assets. Based on an evaluation of the job description to include the new job duties, the recommended classification for the position will move the job to 118 from 116. There is money in the budget. I consulted with David. We are below our payroll budget, so there is money in the budget for this additional cost. In addition, staff recommends changing the title of the NOC Director position to Security and Network Operations Director to reflect the new scope of the position. The proposed job description is included in the detailed pages of this board item on page 201. Frankfurt Plant Board staff is requesting the board to approve the new job description and associated salary grade change to 118 effective February 20th, 2023. Do you have any questions?
As I remember, this was when we talked, about 2 months ago, on facility security and overall security. We talked about creating or establishing a full-time position or assign those duties on a full-time basis. Yeah. Do we have any questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Item 6.13, action item, consider approving the creation of an addition facilities locator 1/2 position. Nichelle.
Yes. Staff asked the board to consider approving the creation of an additional facilities locator 1 or 2 position. Due to the rapid increasing demand of facility locates, multiple large projects, and the addition of fiber, a fourth utility, it has become impossible to meet the requirements of KRS 367.4909, which states, an operator shall respond to facility locate requests and provide a positive response as follows. To a normal excavation locate request within 2 working days after receiving notification from the excavator. A copy of this statute is on page 207. This added position will reside in the Network Operations Department and will report to the Senior Facility Locator daily. The current classification of the facility locator is a grade 105 and requires 2 years of a related experience. The facility locator 2 is a grade 107 and requires 4 years of related experience. Funds are also currently available to support the position prior to the new fiscal year.
As I understand, we have one current vacancy,
Yes,
and then this would be an additional position.
yes,
And I think, is Darren still here?
yes.
I think he said, what, compared to last year, the last month, we had, what, like 700 requests?
I believe so. He has.
Compared to what, 300 something last year?
Yes,
Yeah, Darren.
he's coming.
Yeah, you're right. So, just pulling some numbers with Keith.
You probably want to go up to the microphone so they pick you up on.
I'm sorry. Just, Keith was pulling some numbers earlier, and it looks like, looking at last year's number, between February 1st and today, last year we did 351 locates. Between February 1st and today, this year, we've done 741 locates through the winter months, which is, you know, it's odd. It's just getting busier and busier and busier. And I actually have a handout, if you want it. It just shows some of our numbers and also all the large projects that are coming or ongoing and just the reason for such a demand. And there's really no end in sight.
That's what I was going to say. Do you see any, that this is going to, like this is like a short-term phenomenon, or that this is going to continue?
No, it's going to continue. People are planning these long-term projects, these multi-year projects, and it just keeps coming. I mean, that's good. The economy's, I guess, better, and people are building, but it's creating quite a burden. So we're struggling to keep up, literally struggling to keep up. So that's what this is about.
Any questions for Darren?
So can you give me a specific type of reason? I know you say you have reasons, but an example of the need for the expansion, for the demand.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, well, above and beyond all of these large projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would as well. It would help too. Yeah. And Keith's here too. He can probably put a finer point on it than I can because he lives it every day. But we have all of this infrastructure money that's come available, the projects, our own internal fiber project. We've got a guy that's been here about 2 years, and he's been assigned to locating in front of our own fiber project every day since he's been here. So he doesn't do any other locates other than try to stay ahead of our own project. Columbia Gas has some projects. AT&T has some projects. And this, if you haven't met him, this is Keith Metter. Keith is he's the senior facilities locator. He's also on the Kentucky 811 board. So he talks about this stuff in his sleep, and he's much more versed on it than I am. So, maybe he can help shed some light on why we're so swamped.
But the reason I asked the question was really going back to John's question, is this going to tail off any? And it took me to our fiber project. You have one person dedicated to our fiber. And what's the projection for the completion of our fiber?
I don't know the completion date.
Oh, I was looking for.
Last year we did about 236,000 feet
Mm-hmm.
for those guys, and we've got about 200,000 more feet to go.
No, I'm not questioning right now why you need. I'm just like theoretically, if the fiber project is over in a year or two, do we need?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Keith, think about it, buddy.
Sound like my wife talking to me.
Yes. We just lost a 15-year tenured employee.
Well, I was thinking of the numbers, not the
So
filling the gap, filling with.
So what's coming is we don't have the manpower and staffing to deal with it.
Okay.
And there's no fix for it except manpower. We've got several large projects that are coming that are gas related. They have a 20-year plan to remove all their bare steel gas and replace it with plastic, which pretty much encompasses all of Frankfurt.
Well, I'm not questioning the need now. I understand
the need down the road.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how far down the road, and I went to the fiber project because we did accelerate that project somewhat, and I didn't know how much more time was on that project. And you said there's one person dedicated to that project. So I'm saying theoretically, if that project is over in 1 year, 2 years, is that a position that's not needed for that at that point?
I think I can speak to this for a minute, Mr. Mason. I know wages and benefits is a huge part of any company's budget, and that's just become more and more of an issue. I know we pay very close attention to that. It looks like in the foreseeable future, this position is very much needed, but I do think there will be, in the future, if this were to calm down and things go back to what we think is normal, we could, I think the hope is having 4 physical locators and hope that you can keep 3, because the chance of keeping fully staffed is just very hard to do in these times. So I think there's a chance to ramp down with natural attrition when that were to come. It looks like it could be years before that were happen, but I don't think anyone wants to add a 4th to keep it indefinitely if we don't need it.
And the cost of position is allocated between the different business lines, right?
Correct.
Water, fiber.
Yes.
And electric pays.
Right.
Each.
So to answer your question, there's probably 8 other projects that are going on, and we've got one guy dedicated 100% to the fiber project. So the other projects, they have to be completed as well.
Yeah.
They're not as fast moving, but they're larger in scope. So the ticket volumes that we're receiving aren't necessarily going up as much as the scope of the request. And what I mean by that is you have one locate request for an entire street versus a locate request for a single address to plant a rose bush. So when we get 20 of those tickets at a time, that encompasses basically from Ann Street all the way to Wapping, all the way to Wilkinson, we don't have the resources for that. And when we've got 4 or 5 of those projects actively going on right now, we need help.
Yeah. Again, I understand the need right now. I'm not questioning it at all. I'm looking down the road.
You're looking long term, and I understand.
And for 2 reasons. One, the potential employee that comes aboard, and 4 years, he or she may not have a job because of that plan. I just want that expectation on the table that this might be 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I'm just saying, but at some point there may not be a need. And
we've been borrowing from Peter to pay Paul about the last 5 or 6 years. Like the water department, when they get behind, we would have an employee that would go supplement locate for them. So the need's been there for a long time.
Okay.
So, and I'll say this and I'll be quiet. We've averaged about 11 to 12% growth in the 811 community since 2010. And those are numbers that I get from my board at Kentucky 811. The growth is there. So long term, I don't foresee that. Even after we finish our project, we've got, how do I say this without other fiber projects. We've got one getting ready to start here in the spring.
I'm fine with it. Seriously.
Yeah, I think David and I discussed this quite a bit, and we kind of came to the conclusion we have the same concerns you do. Longer term, what does it look like? And that's where we came to. Looking at our past history of our locators, we can't keep the locators long term, it doesn't appear. So we really think there'll be plenty of opportunities in the future if the need dwindles some. Again, the laws have changed that's actually created more of a need. But if they do dwindle in the future, I think there'll be a number of opportunities of natural attrition of those folks just kind of transitioning out. And I mean, we'll run Keith off or something.
It sounds like in the meantime, we have to comply with KRS 367, and we're not able to keep up. So the only solution would be either kind of what you intimated, which is at the outset letting someone know we're only going to need you 2 years, or contract. But your perspective is a really great one, being on the statewide board.
Yeah, I see this stuff coming long before it gets
we're not an outlier.
No.
You've got a historical perspective already within the plant board.
This isn't a plant board problem either. It's an industry problem.
Yeah.
And it's not just here. It's a statewide problem. And it's, for other folks, hopefully, we'll be able to remedy our problem. But for other folks, this isn't going to end well.
And just clarification, just on one of the projects you listed, which I appreciate y'all drawing this up. The gas relocation project, you said it's a 20-year plan?
They have 20 years to complete it.
Okay. So that's not a short-term project either.
No, and those are generally pretty large in scale. Currently, we've got 3 gas projects that are actively going on now, and a 4th getting ready to start. They're doing a high-pressure build over off of Strathmore and Bonnycastle, and that's gonna be actually a small project compared to everything else we're doing. It's only about 4,000 feet, but it's going to terminate right here behind the building.
And even leading up to today, I know in several meetings, I know our chairman's been really good about getting staff to express that it's not just the number of projects you have to look at, you have to look at the scope, and this isn't just going out and people are planting more trees or something. It's
Yeah.
like a huge project that takes much longer.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. If it was a rosebush ticket, which is what we call a single address ticket, we wouldn't have a problem. It's the large projects that they've overrun us. We don't have the manpower for it. Currently, we have people, and somebody from cable may correct me if I'm wrong, there's 2 from cable and 2 from electric right now helping just to stay in front of the fiber project that we have.
Mr. Chairman, the only difference compared to others, we may have manage the timeline, what we do, they absolutely is not. When there's a request coming by law, a certain time, we have to finish that locating job. Otherwise, there's a liability issue to us and to them.
So what's being talked about is if I'm a contractor / excavator and I call in a locate request and I don't fulfill that obligation that we have legally, they want to be compensated for their downtime. So if I can't get there in that 48 hours and you've got equipment and manpower standing on the side of the road that you can't put to work because we haven't marked our utilities, they want to be compensated for that. It's not law. It's already happened in Missouri, and they're talking about it in Indiana, which I think it goes to their legislature this year. So the 811 community is kind of small. I have a reasonable expectation that's going to get talked about in the state of Kentucky.
Anybody have any other questions for Darren or Keith?
For clarification, the second page of your handout is a copy of the exit interview from the employee we just lost.
Yeah.
That Michelle conducted, and it just reinforces very good employee, no complaints with the company. Just the work to salary ratio ran him off basically, and he was about a 15-year.
It was a 15-year tenured locator.
Yeah, so we just lost him.
And I love that that's the purpose for these exit interviews, and for us to ignore it would be silly.
If you look at that, he wasn't disgruntled. He wasn't upset with anyone. He's just overwhelmed.
Do you know, did he go to another agency that did locate, or did he just totally get out of the locator? I guess what I'm saying is, in the industry, I know we're pushing our people. I assume every utility is pushing their people too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He went back to a contract locate company that does single way locates. So where we were doing 3, now 4, he went back to doing a single stop locating gas. So they do the same ticket volumes that we do, but for every 1 ticket that we do, there's 4 locates associated with that. And he goes to 1 address with 1 locate. Can't fault him. I'm not mad at him.
Yeah. Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the establishment of the position. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Position's approved. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
you all.
And thank you all for what you do.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Well, Michelle, you're going to talk about our health plan again.
Yes, sir. So just an update on what's going on with the our provider, our network provider, and one of the healthcare providers. So effective February 1st, Baptist Health and Cigna reached an agreement, and Baptist Health providers are now participating in the Cigna network. Our healthcare consultant are still researching other network alternatives. that may lead to a cost savings. So at the time, we're still going to ask that our 29 employees that switched to the PHCS network to continue utilizing PCH network until further notice. I have a meeting on Tuesday with our healthcare consultant to discuss those other alternatives. And I will have a recommendation to present to the board at the March board meeting. So we just thought it would be better not to switch them back over to Cigna if we could potentially everyone change to another network.
So for right now, all of our employees and their dependents are still getting to use the providers they had been using
Yes, sir.
in the network. So do you think when we swing around for July 1st, well, that's not our plan year, but when we come into the new budget, we're going to know where we're headed, or you think things will stabilize by then, or?
Yes, I'm hoping sooner. I'm hoping after our meeting next week, I'll be able to present something and then we can make a smooth transition, whether it's either move the 29 that's on the PCH network back to Cigna or move everybody to a completely new network. I don't want to do it in between a month. So for me, if we are able to present and the board approves, I would like for the new effective date for whichever one, whether it be to move the PCH employees back to Cigna or to a completely new network. But again, it's taken them this long just to work out the negotiations, so I'm not really for sure of what the time frame would be, but I'm hoping it would be sooner than later.
Because for right now, I think, David, you and I talked the other day, our healthcare expenditures are running below budget level. But in reality, that's one major surgery.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you really don't know where you stand until the bills are in.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's nice we're below budget, but $100,000 in the healthcare market's there's no margin. I mean, and from what I'm seeing in inflation, that healthcare still hadn't taken off like some other areas of inflation, which I think is interesting that it hadn't. But
does anyone have any questions?
we don't have. There's nothing we have to act on there,
No.
right?
Okay.
Thank you. You want to tell us about Washington D.C.? Did you bring us back a bag of money?
It is a lot. Actually, I went to 2 conferences. One is APPA. They have annual conference. It really is then really organize more than 2,000 municipal to visit Congress to address our issue, including the transformer we face, and we've been talking about distribution transformer, network reliability concern, and overall the FEMA, some the community face and how to deal in FEMA. There's other things. And also at the same time joined the ACA. It's with our cable side. I didn't go from beginning to end, but I went to one or two their conference same time at the DC. They talk a lot about broadband issue, consider future. There's a lot of newer broadband money on the way called BEAM. There potentially could $1 billion, 1.1 billion, based on their estimate, come into Kentucky.
Really?
By July. So all the broadband office, there are many state broadband office go there, give them presentation. We had a lot of concern about meeting the requirement since we have the grant. For example, Building American, the labor, the material, how do you meet the requirement? I heard a lot of those information and also find some of the contact, because all the broadband office in every state, they kind of copy each other, mirror the policy, move forward, because most of the monies come same resource, all come from federal, different program. So they try to work out a different policy, how do they apply it. Maybe, hopefully, I heard some of the things they talk about. It's a little easier for our, not as restricted we think. But we're going to follow the bid purchasing policy, but not as, restrict as what we saw.
Did they give you any idea when the guidelines will come out for that new money?
Last part, basically the money they talk about, they even invented the program manager, the treasury department, people come and keep a talk.
they really hope a lot of the guideline policy come from state. The originally thought is the money go to every state have a different circumstance, so they know exactly which county they need to go, what kind of policy they put in place. So what they say is they have a lot of control. But that's from Treasury Department,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have a lot of guidelines you
Yeah.
have to follow exactly. But interesting conversation, many of them. But it is a lot of money coming in with.
Yeah.
But all of them is a matching grant.
They are matching. Do you know what the match is on the new money?
They talk about a lot of 50%, but same time they also talk about a potential in the future average. There's some ACA estimated. ACA is that association, and they think overall matching probably going down, less than 50.
But going which way? Less from the feds or more from who's going down?
The Fed are going to have a more
They're
percentage.
going to put more in.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But actually what they say, that's also state's decision. That's based on Fed. So
So if the state wanted to make the federal money go further, they keep the match high. If they want to, yeah.
there are a lot of restrictions. They also talk about some of the state, right, like Virginia, all that. They think they have a more than they needed to reach every household. They could even leave some money for the affordability. That surprised me on that part. So we will see.
Well, keep us posted on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We've got under 9, we got 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, and 9.4. How do we need to do this, Hans? Do we need to reach each of these and adopt or go into closed session?
Yes, sir. I would make one motion. I would read each one of these and then have one motion to go into a closed session.
Okay, Steve, would you mind?
Where's John Snyder?
Where's John Snyder? Believe me, he'd rather be here.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810 1B for deliberations on future acquisition of real property, since publicity would be likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use, and KRS 61.810 1C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding property and products matter. Also, closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810 1B for deliberations on future acquisition of real property, since publicity would be likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use, and KRS 61.810 1C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding property and products matter. Also, a motion for a closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810 1G regarding discussions concerning a specific proposal, since open discussions would jeopardize the siting, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business. And motion for closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810 1M to discuss infrastructure records that expose a vulnerability through the disclosure of the location and configuration of public utility critical systems exempted from disclosure under KRS 61.878 1M 1F.
So the overall motion is for us to go into closed session to address the 4 items that Mr. Mason has presented.
Yes, per those exceptions.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yep.
Steve's got the motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We'll go into closed session, and we shouldn't be in, I don't think, more than 10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So if we could reconvene in like 5 minutes and clear the room and. Huh? Motion to come out of closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I'll direct staff to proceed as directed.
No, first I need a motion to come out of closed.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank
We're out
you.
of closed session.
Second.
Steve?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to proceed as directed in the closed session.
Second.
We have a second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Last, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Oh, second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.